Welcome to Under the Influence. I'm Elvis Mitchell. My guest for this episode is a friend and two-time Oscar nominee, Golden Globe winner, but I won't hold that against him, Edward Norton. First of all, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for doing the show.
Pleasure.
But Edward, I have to, because I know that you're somebody as an actor who's really conscious of film in general, and to have gotten to work with somebody who I'm sure was an influence on you in his way, Milos Forman, when you did The People versus Larry Flint.
Sure. In fact, that was the main reason I got involved with the movie. On a script level, initially, I didn't understand what it was really about or why anyone wanted to make a movie on that subject. It didn't actually hook me as a script, but I had a couple of really seminal learning experiences on that movie. I think I came out of a theater background, even though I was a big fan of films. And I remember I hung around on that set all the time, even when I wasn't working, just because I wanted to watch Milos work. And there's a scene between Larry Flint and Althea Flint and Woody Harrelson and Courtney Love. You have two extremely improvisational, free-form kind of actors. And
one who basically has no acting training.
Yeah, exactly. And he let them just riff around the subject of their relationship and should they get married and all these things. And he rolled it and rolled it and rolled it. And I remember thinking, wow, that was just all over the place. He didn't get anything there. And then watching him in the cutting room months later, cutting that together, he shaped this scene that had never taken place in one go that way. And I remember sitting in the cutting room going, this is one of the greatest lessons I will ever learn about making a movie. Like, it made me realize how plastic the whole thing was. There's a great book by an editor,
Ralph Rosenblum,
The
Shooting Stops, The Cutting Begins.
Right, yeah, one of the great books about editing.
Isn't it amazing how scary that book is?
It really is.
What Annie Hall was going to be, then what it becomes?
His account of how Annie Hall became Annie Hall is, to me, like a must-read.
Now, had you read that before you worked with Woody? Did you?
Yeah, I had, actually. I mean, you talk about influence and things. I mean, certainly for me, growing up, Woody Allen's movies just were like something totally apart.
And was Annie Hall one of those?
For sure. I remember really distinctly as a kid seeing Annie Hall and going, there's no structure. There's no, I mean, I didn't use those words then, but I was watching it going, I remember sort of having the thought, this guy's just doing whatever he wants to do. There's a piece of animation in it, and he's talking to the camera, and the story hops back and forward in time, and it was so liberated. It was so incredibly free.
And you know something? I don't think I mind analysis at all. The only question is will it change my wife?
Will it change your wife?
Will it change my life?
Yeah, but you said, will it change my wife?
No, I didn't. I said, will it change my life, Alvy?
You said, will it change wife? You said,
life. I said life.
She said, will it change my wife?
And he turns to the camera and goes, you were there, so you know I'm not crazy. And he just goes back into the scene. And then I remember as a kid seeing that and just going, what? Like, you can do that? That's hysterical, you know?
There's a kind of this sort of, let's try it on and see if it works spirit to
Totally.
it.
And I remember thinking at the time, there's no way that a movie this could be made like this unless the person making it is at the peak of their powers. And that's the vision, the view I held of that until I read Ralph Rosenblum's book, in which you realize that making that movie was like the antithesis of that. It was, he had a totally different idea of what it was going to be. He followed it out. It wasn't working. He wasn't liking it. He looked at what he was liking about it, decided to follow that, expand on it, throw away a lot, reshoot, and it morphed all the way through the making of it until it had become this thing. And it blows apart your whole notion of kind of artistic prowess. But then what I realized is, no, that is actual real artistic courage. And courageous people are the ones who let it continue to reveal itself to them and don't, you know, put the iron fist on it and try to clamp it down.
You seem to be attracted to guys who have a voice in their head or a vision in their head about what it is they want to see, be it Fincher or Spike or Woody Allen, or even, I would say, in Down in the Valley. It's like you're doing Fonda in a Terrence Malick movie, to me, in that
Yeah, with David Jacobson, who's the wonderful director of that movie, we talked a lot about Malick. He was deeply influenced by Malick, and I think influence is beautiful when it it's not just ripping off, it's that someone's affected you, it goes through you, it gets bent through the prism of somebody else and comes out this other thing. And Joseph Campbell, the great,
Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Yeah, the great philosopher on myth and storytelling, really, he's got this great point, which is that there really are a limited number of stories, and we just retell them over and over and over again. And he says it's really...
And only one hero journey.
Yeah, and each generation retells those stories for themselves. And he has this idea of transparency, which is that the way stories really work are as if you can see through the story somehow and see how it's really about you. Like, we made this cop corruption movie called Pride and Glory, and I remember saying to the director, why do we need to make another New York cop corruption story? And he said something astute, which is he kind of went, well, I think we need to make our corruption story. You know what I mean? And I knew what he was saying, because you can make Serpico in the 70s, and that's a cop corruption story for the 70s, in the sense that, like, what is Serpico really? He's a beatnik. The character, Serpico, Al Pacino in The Hat, living in the village, it's transparent for that generation because they see themselves in Serpico. You know, the people of that generation, they go, yeah, he's one of us. So again, it's a story about a corruption in an institution. The same institution, the New York City Police Department. So why do it again? Well, because we're not talking about the problems in the early 70s. We're doing it refracted through the experience that our generation is going through.
Sure, a different kind of mistrust. But
right.
I wonder if Lumet's one of those guys for you, because there's Serpico, and then a few years later, there's Dog Day Afternoon, which is the other side, which is Al Pacino literally on the other side of the barricade. He's not a cop.
Right.
He's somebody who wants to become a part of the system. I just wonder if Pacino and Lumet are those guys for you who are kind of touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. And you've talked to Spike Lee also. I mean, Spike loved Lumet's movies, and I'll tell you, like, when you talk about connections, influence, like, one of the things I see in Spike's movies that I admire hugely, that to me marked Lumet as, like, one of the really great filmmakers in that era, was that these are filmmakers who are rolling around in the moment that they're living in. You know what I mean? Like, Lumet made movies about what was going on in the moment that he was living in. I mean, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, 12 Angry Men, going back in 12 Angry Men. Like, he took a look at what was going on around him, felt the pulse and the energy of the places he lived and that he knew, felt what the issues were, and he made movies about them, And Spike to me is probably, and this isn't a reduction, it's a real compliment, I think Spike's the most socially conscious filmmaker of his generation. And Spike's rolled around in race, sports, and fame, money, drugs. He's looked at it all, and he's consistently just gone at very challenging examinations of what makes modern life in America challenging.
But there are always questions, even when be it race or not, it's always questions of masculinity for Spike.
Yeah, but also that same thing that you said about Lumet's films, provocative, topical, but full of pathos. Like, I mean, Spike can be so iconoclastic as a person that I think sometimes people miss in his movies how compassionate they are. Spike's films are really compassionate. I think he has a lot of empathy for everybody. Like, if you take a movie like Do the Right Thing, it's a real equal opportunity. I mean, he hits everybody just as hard.
Yo! Yo! Yeah? You almost knocked me down, man. The word is excuse me.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Not only did you knock me down, you stepped on my brand new white Air Jordans that I just bought. And that's all you can say is excuse me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. I'll fuck you up quick 2 times. 2 times. Who told you to step on my sneakers? Who told you to walk on my side of the block? Who told you to be in my neighborhood?
I own this brownstone.
Who told you to buy a brownstone on my block, in my neighborhood, on my side of the street?
I'm out of here.
Yo, man, break his feet! Come on, take his gun! I should make you buy me another pair! Then why don't you move back to Massachusetts?
I was born in Brooklyn.